Live in the Middle East tonight. I thank you for being with us. I'm Blake Burman. President Trump taking questions right now. Day 7, war with Iran.
This one that you're riding this week be different?
It'll be more comprehensive. That was put out as a test, as a, feeler. This will be much more comprehensive because we've all learned a lot in the last pretty long period of time, 6 months or so period of time. I think we could do a very good document. I think we could do a document that works from a common sense standpoint. Whether or not it's going to hold up in court, who knows? Honestly, it will depend on the judge. Maybe we'll get a wise judge. There are wise judges, too. We got some very brilliant, wise judges. Maybe we'll get lucky.
Why aren't there any student athletes in the room?
Why aren't there any student athletes in the room? Do you want to answer that question, Randy?
We've made it clear, and I thought I said it before, that we have agents here. There are a lot of student-athlete groups. There's a limited room here, and after this meeting, we intend to talk to all of the interested student-athlete groups to get their input, because this can't be done without them. But at the end of the day, we had to kick this off and start it. This is the beginning. This isn't the end. I've talked to a lot of people who represent student athletes, and there are certain interest groups that I'm sure would have liked to be here, but they'll have their opportunity.
They're very well represented. You know why? Because people like Nick Saban and Urban Meyers and some of the people, all the people that I know in the room, and the people probably that I don't know, they all care very much about the student athlete, more so than they care about themselves. So I think they're really here in that sense. They're represented very well. Peter, I'll give you one more chance, because that was a bad question you asked before. Go ahead.
We've already got a lot of sound bites
I don't want to leave him in the
about the
like
sports. Can I ask one off topic?
On topic.
On topic. Okay.
Which is unusual for you. Go ahead.
Thank you. What is motivating you to do this right now? Because there is a lot of other stuff going on in the world.
Right. That's right. There's a lot. We're doing by the way, in Iran, we're doing very well. Somebody said, how would you score it from 0 to 10? I said, I'd give it a 12 to a 15. Their army is gone. They're just about, look, their navy is gone. Their communications are gone. Their leaders are gone. 2 sets of their leaders are gone. They're down to their 3rd set. Their air force is wiped out entirely. Think of it. They have 32 ships. All 32 are at the bottom of the ocean. Other than that, they're doing very well, Coach. Very well. We're doing, our military is doing phenomenally. That's the big thing for this week. We seem to have a new thing every week, but the situation with a very bad and very sick group of leaders who were killing a lot of people. A lot of our people were being killed. They were being maimed. They were being destroyed with their bombs all over the place, planted in roads, and we call them the roadside bombs, walking around without legs, without arms, face blasted, killed many, many people. And we had a choice. We could take it and go on like that for years or do something about it. And we did something about it. And people are very impressed with our military, and they admire our military with what happened in Venezuela and what's happening now, what's happened with the B-2 bombers before this, where they took out the nuclear capability or potential of Iran. I think we're, right now, we're a country that's more respected than we've ever been respected before. I saw what was happening with college sports, and it doesn't sound very important compared to what's happening in Iran and other places, but it is very important to me. And if I can get it done, I'll get it done. Through a bad system, it's a bad system. Through a bad legal system, you want to know the truth, we have a situation that is almost unsolvable. And we'll see if we can solve it. And, Peter, Fact is, we're talking about colleges that are going to go out of business by many, many colleges are going to be out of business. This isn't just about student athletes. This is about our whole educational system is going to go out of business because of this. So I understand what you're saying in terms of the level of importance, but to me, this is very important. Very, very important. Thank you. Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
The Commander-in-Chief, President Trump, live at the White House, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. I thank you for being with us tonight. I'm Blake Burman. The president was there speaking at an event about college sports, the issue of name, image, and likeness, some of the context there for some of the questions that you heard. A former Heisman Trophy winner will join us later in the show. But we begin tonight with the big news out of the Middle East. You see the president walking out of the room there. President Trump describing what's gone on there as it relates to the U.S. military and our operations there as a 12 to 15 on a scale of 10. He said the communications are gone, the leaders are gone, the Air Force wiped out 32 ships at the bottom of the ocean. Our military is doing phenomenally, he says. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, there with him as well, as you can see, and many of the top cabinet members. Out now to our Robert Sherman, who is live with us in Tel Aviv as our coverage continues here on News Nation. Robert, I was watching you moments ago before we took the president's live event, and for all of the successes that the U.S. military is having and has had over the last 7 days, a reminder over your shoulder just moments ago about still the ongoing challenges there in the Middle East.
And now you understand why American and Israeli forces have put such a focus on knocking out Iran's aerial capabilities, namely their ability to launch drones, to put missiles in the air, because even with their capabilities degraded, they've still shown the ability to put pressure on the Gulf states and Israel, where we are. This is what happened while we were on the air with Conal McShane just moments ago. Oh, look at that. So right above us here. This is the largest response that we have seen in probably 2 days, Conal, as you hear the explosions taking place above us here. Some of these are taking place well beyond us, actually. Look at that's 4 explosions that we've heard just right over us here. Some of them were off in the distance beyond Tel Aviv. But then interestingly, Conal, some of them appear to go beyond us. I mean, what's behind us here is actually the Mediterranean. And sometimes, you know, a lot of these Gulf states or countries around the region, they actually let missiles go if they're heading towards the Mediterranean to not spend an interceptor. So that was interesting to see them heading back to see them heading back behind us here. We haven't really seen much of that so far, but that was a very large-scale response that we saw, especially with some of the. So I mean, you see, you know, how quickly some of these interceptors actually have to move in order to pick off these ballistic missiles that are coming our way. So we're going to try and get with the IDF here to see. We've seen a few of those missile barrages coming our way here this evening. While they have decreased in their constant nature compared to this weekend, Blake, at the early onset of these operations, Iran's still showing the ability to reach Tel Aviv, to reach Israel with their long-range capabilities, and then, of course, hammering away at the Gulf states as much as possible to keep the pressure on our U.S. service members and bases there. Blake?
Robert, do you have a sense there on the ground or the feeling across Israel tonight about Iran's capabilities? We've heard from American leadership basically say when it comes to their drones and ballistic missiles, the attacks are down 90%, suggesting that Iran is a shell of what they were just a week ago. But what we just saw, also a reminder, at least whether it comes from Iran or the proxies there, maybe Hezbollah on the other side of the border there, just north of you, that there are still capabilities. So I'm wondering the sense of how much is, for lack of a better term, still in the tank.
Yeah, I mean, I think that across the board here, whether it's from the American or Israeli side, the sentiment is that the capabilities are degraded. I said this on Conal's show before, and I say it again. It only takes one to get through, though, to cause massive destruction and massive loss of life. And so, I mean, as you have seen here in the last hour, they still have some long-range capabilities. It has greatly diminished the number of strikes that we've seen and the number of attacks targeting Israel over the last couple of days. But there is still some that is in the tank here. I would say that there is growing optimism that Iran is running out. I mean, especially given the fact that what Iran puts in the air to target our service members who are in, say, Kuwait or Bahrain or UAE, those aren't long-range missiles. Those are in many cases drones or shorter-range missiles because they're right across from the Persian Gulf. Here, it takes a different caliber of weapon in order to reach Israel. That's just simply because of the distance that needs to be covered. So you're talking about two different weapon sets here. The thinking is that because of how much it's slowed down, those capabilities are diminishing, but still some to go.
Robert Sherman, stay with us here throughout the hour live in Tel Aviv. Great reporting as always, Robert. Thank you. As we were coming on air, we heard President Trump there. He was at an event for really a couple hours there or close to it, talking about the future of college sports. But one of the headlines from the president today before any of that was he posted on Truth Social calling for the quote unquote unconditional surrender from Iran. He also had a meeting over at the White House involving the defense companies that are at the heart of this, supplying our U.S. military. And the president today basically said, you know what? We're not doubling down. We're not tripling down. We are quadrupling down on some of those capabilities. Our Kelly Meyer live at the White House tonight with the president, who is, I believe, right, about to maybe get on the plane on Air Force One, and maybe we'll see him again soon. Who knows?
That's right, Blake. And it sounds like we got a bad weather call here, so he will likely be taking the motorcade to JBA. So we'll look to see if we hear from him there or on Air Force One. But you're right, we just heard from the president on a different topic for several hours. He was even asked in there why he was taking the time to talk about this when there was so much else going on. And he did note that and right off those comments, right off that question, say that we are doing very well in Iran, he said. He also added that the Air Force, he says, was wiped out entirely. He added that all 32 ships are at the bottom of the ocean. But as you mentioned, Blake, he did meet with defense contractors here at the White House. And, you know, we've traveled with Secretary Hegseth as he went around the country encouraging contractors and businesses to really amp up production. And that's what you saw from the president here today alongside Secretary Hegseth, asking them to really ramp up this production. And as you said, they agreed to quadruple that production. And that indicates, as he said, this may be going for some time. He said in his post what he called, quote, exquisite class weaponry, and that we want to reach a rapidly possible, the highest levels of quantity. But we know the war, Blake, is costly, of course, more than anything in human life, but also in munitions. Those Tomahawks, those were the first to take off by sea. We heard earlier this week at the Pentagon briefing. An estimated 400 Tomahawk missiles have fired from Navy destroyers and submarines over the at least 3 days of this war, and they are $2.2 million a pop. And those new Lucas drones, $35,000 per unit. And again, also, Blake, I want to note we did talk about here the human cost of war. I am told President Trump is set to attend the dignified transfer tomorrow at Dover Air Force Base. Blake.
Kelly Meyer, live for us tonight, 1600. Kelly, thank you. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Other side of the break, I'm going to walk you through some of what we saw across the Middle East today. It is approaching the end of the 7th day. We've heard from the White House now for quite a few days about the success of all of this. I'll walk you through it, and General Mark Kimmett is here with me as well. 6:18 here on the East Coast tonight, 1:18 across the Middle East. The Central Command is now providing brand new details about Operation Epic Fury. And I want to show you exactly where things stand right now, as the U.S. military has struck more than 3,000 targets over the past 7 days, including the Iranian military's command and control centers, their naval bases, and ballistic missile sites. Tonight, more than 40 Iranian ships damaged or destroyed. CENTCOM noting that the U.S. military is employing more than 20 advanced assets, including B-2 stealth bombers, F-35 fighter jets, and several special top-secret capabilities, as they describe it. The Israeli Air Force as well, essentially also delivering a muscle flex of global proportions. posting a video of a couple of their pilots flying freely over Iranian airspace today. The U.S. taking out Iran's ballistic missile outposts. CENTCOM, for example, announcing that B-2 stealth bombers attacked them with 2,000-pound penetrator bombs. Some of the facilities were deep underground. The move allows the U.S. and Israel to strike further into Iran. Iran has been leaning heavily on drones. CENTCOM releasing footage of an Iranian drone carrier somewhere in the Persian Gulf, as you can see here, about the size of a World War II aircraft carrier. The vessel struck and destroyed the latest Iranian ship to sink in the war.
The achievable objectives of Operation Epic Fury we expect to last about 4 to 6 weeks, and we are well on our way to achieving those objectives. Annihilating Iran's navy, we know that we've sunk more than 30 Iranian vessels and ships. Their navy has now been deemed combat ineffective.
Their Navy deemed combat ineffective. Back with us, retired General Mark Kimmett, former Assistant Secretary of State for Political Affairs. General, thanks for being with us. I want to get to you in a second on that combat ineffective, but the other news today from the Commander-in-Chief was calling for unconditional surrender. Based off of what I laid out today and what's been going on over the past 7 days or so, is that what's coming?
Well, I haven't heard the term unconditional surrender since World War II. I think the thing we've all got to realize is the art of the deal lays this all out. President Trump starts out with maximalist demands, outrageous demands in some cases. So I certainly hope that he truly is using this as an opening bargaining chip, because if we anticipate that the Iranian government is going to unconditionally surrender, that's going to cause far more concerns that I have than if we just come up with a negotiated agreement.
What about the Navy being combat ineffective? Is that what U.S. forces have leveled upon Iran at this point?
Oh, I think that's absolutely true. But again, I don't want to sound like Debbie Downer, but I went through this in Vietnam, this scorecard approach to victory. It's great, and it's the bravery of our Air Force pilots and the Israeli pilots is unquestioned. But I'm not sure that a body count scorecard approach to this is going to lead us to understanding where we need to get to.
Here was President Trump moments ago, and then we'll pick it up.
I'd give it a 12 to a 15. Their army is gone. They're just about, look, their Navy is gone. Their communications are gone. Their leaders are gone.
I hear you on the concerns, General. I do not mean to minimize them at all. I hear you. As we look forward, though, and as you hear the Commander-in-Chief describe sort of how he thinks the operations are going, what do you think, where do you think our military is tonight, and what do you think sort of the next 7 days might look like?
Well, look, there's no doubt that the military is conducting the mission in a brilliant manner, sort of a large-scale version of the brilliance of Venezuela. And it will continue. We have far more ammunition. We're now seeing in the public domain the number of rounds that have been used, types of ordnance, and the number that is remaining. And the numbers are staggering, how much we still have left. So we can continue to drop bombs day and night, and we're going to certainly take out even more of the Iranian military capability. The question is, okay, where does that get us?
Where do you think that does get us?
If we think that military victory is going to add up to strategic success in Iran, that's certainly not my view. If we bomb them to the Stone Age, as the old saying goes, this is a country that still has hundreds of pounds of enriched uranium, and they could put some of that in a missile, in a warhead, fire it to Tel Aviv. Even if it is exploded over Tel Aviv, it will be even more dangerous because all that radioactive material will rain down on them. So we just need to understand, my view, sadly, is that wars end at the negotiating table, and it's the military force that drives the participants back to the negotiating table. And that's where we get unconditional surrender. And that's unconditional surrender of their nuclear program, their rocket program, ballistic missile program, and their drone programs, as well as an ending of the proxy support. I don't think that simply relying on bombing them to the Stone Age will accomplish that.
General Mark Kimmett, back with us tonight. Appreciate it, sir, as always. By the way,
Thank
the
you.
cost, you're welcome, of course. The cost of one Patriot missile, $3.7 million. A single THAAD missile defense interceptor costs about $13 million. The U.S. says it has struck more than 3,000 targets on the offensive front at this point in time. Continue to keep our eyes tonight on the Middle East. Just a short time ago, missiles fired over Israel. But here at home, is there a new clue? From the haunting images of the stranger at Nancy Guthrie's door, plus the biggest stars in college sports, alongside the President of the United States today as he picks sides when it comes to fair play and your teams. .30 here on the East Coast, 1:30 across the Middle East. If you're just getting home on this Friday evening, I want to show you two things that happened here in about the last 45 minutes or so. This was from the camera of our Robert Sherman over Tel Aviv. As you can see, the scene there above the skies. Robert heard explosions there on the ground in Tel Aviv. It is basically the end of day 7, approaching the end of the first week of this war with Iran. And then we started this hour listening to President Trump. He was at a long event at the White House on a totally unrelated issue, started taking questions from reporters, and here's how he described the military successes so far.
Their army is gone. They're just about, look, their Navy is gone. Their communications are gone. Their leaders are gone. 2 sets of their leaders are gone. They're down to their 3rd set. Their Air Force is wiped out entirely. Think of it. They have 32 ships. All 32 are at the bottom of the ocean. Other than that, they're doing very well, Coach. Very well. We're doing, our military is doing phenomenally.
Back with us, Robert Sherman, Tel Aviv tonight with the very latest there. Robert, let's start with what you saw about 45 minutes ago, and then sort of the scene over the past day there across the Middle East.
Yeah, Blake, I mean, I would say that the barrage that just came our way was probably the largest, if not one of the largest, that we've seen since the first day of these operations, in which Iran was really throwing everything they had at American and Israeli forces. I have not seen that many interceptors since this weekend, and it has felt as though that it's been dying down over the last couple of days. And then you see the sky light up like that, and it's a reminder that Iran still does have something left in the tank, and they do still have some long-range capabilities here. I mean, in terms of how things are on the ground, I mean, I would say, interestingly, I mean, they have loosened a lot of the guidelines here in Israel. Public gatherings are allowed again. Shops are opening back up. Restaurants are opening back up. So people are timidly starting that process of getting back to normal life. But then you see scenes like this, and I mean, this is what makes people, stay close to home and, think twice about venturing too far away from the bomb shelters here.
One of the events for President Trump today was behind closed doors. It was with the major defense contractors, and he talked about amping up production capabilities for the top technology as we continue on, as our military continues on with this fight. Something that stood out to me was from Admiral Cooper, Central Command commander, earlier this week, Robert. Here's what he said, and then I'll pick it up with you.
If I just walk back a couple of years, you remember what you used to always hear, we're shooting down a $50,000 drone with a $2 million missile. These days, we're spending a lot of time shooting down $100,000 drones with $10,000 weapons from ours.
What we've learned, among the many things, Robert, that we've learned over the past week, is that the U.S. military is is rolling out right now some of the best capabilities that we have, and for the very first time.
Without question, Blake. I mean, as someone who spent a lot of time in Ukraine, you've really seen the rules of war changing exponentially over the last 3 years because of that, because of the use of drones and the calculus and the math of, well, do you want to shoot down a $30,000, $50,000 drone with a multi-million-dollar THAAD missile?
Right.
The math doesn't really work there. But those drones still have the capability to cause immense damage and immense loss of life. And this is really the first time the United States is engaging in this new era of warfare that Iran played a big role in starting, by the way, with the development of these Shahed drones. And now you're seeing the U.S. entering this phase of warfare for the first time, and we're seeing it play out before our eyes.
Robert Sherman, our man on the ground there, Tel Aviv tonight. Robert, thank you. Stay safe. His reporting continues on News Nation throughout the evening and over the weekend. Meantime, as we keep our eyes on the Middle East, here at home, a new development in the search for Nancy Guthrie. The FBI now investigating a possible internet outage in Guthrie's neighborhood at the time of her disappearance. And it could all tie back to the suspect caught on camera outside of Guthrie's home. Our Brian Enton, the one reporting on this today. And Brian, we've seen, hello again from Tucson, we've seen that video looped and looped and looped and looped over and over and over again for more than a month now. And you're picking up on something that could have been in that person's pocket, or at least on their body.
Yeah, we know that this is something that investigators are looking into right now because they've asked several of the neighbors if they experienced any kind of internet outage around the same exact time that we believe Nancy Guthrie was abducted, early morning hours of February 1st. What's interesting, Blake, is I talked to one neighbor who say at that time, the two Ring cameras on the back of their house suddenly became inactive for a period of time. And again, it lines up with the time that Nancy Guthrie was abducted, which would match up with why the FBI is asking other neighbors, too, if they experienced any kind of internet outage. And what's also interesting, Blake, is the people who have those Ring cameras that they say became inactive just in that window, they say that their dog also woke them up in the middle of the night at that same time, wanting to go outside, which they say is very, very unusual. And when they went outside, they say that the dog was sort of looking in the direction of Nancy Guthrie's house. Now, if a signal jammer was used, and there's a picture I want to show you from the surveillance video where you can see an antenna sticking out of the suspect's pocket, it's possible it's a walkie-talkie. That's it right there, Blake. But it's also possible it is a signal jammer, I'm told, which would actually stop Wi-Fi in the area, which could possibly explain why we saw or why we're hearing about this potential outage. Blake?
Wow. Brian Enton, Tucson, Arizona for us tonight. Brian, thank you. All right. So we heard President Trump today, top of the hour, right? He was talking about Iran and also talking about this. Does the government want a say in your favorite college football team? How the president plans, in his words, to fix college football. The former Heisman Trophy winner, Gino Torretta, with me on the other side of the break. Is Congress going to get involved with your alma mater? When we return. Suggestion from President Trump today as he met with a who's who of college sports stars, including Nick Saban, for example, getting front row seating next to the president. At issue, the money cannon that has suddenly launched across college sports as athletes are now able to cash in on their name, image, and likeness following a 2021 Supreme Court ruling. President Trump viewing it as an existential threat, essentially, for America's universities.
If Congress does not take action fast, it could destroy college sports and destroy the colleges that play these sports. They'll be destroyed. They'll be going bankrupt.
A fresh reminder of the battle to win this week, the Mississippi legislature passing a bill to eliminate income tax for NIL money to try to lure the best talent in the Magnolia State. Joining me now, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, legend of the game, Gino Torretta, back with us once again here on the show. Gino, it's nice to see you. I know you know this, but I'll tell our audience, I used to watch you sling it around the Orange Bowl way back when you were a Heisman Trophy winner, so it's great to speak with you. I found those comments interesting from the president. It's one thing to say college sports or college football's at stake, but is this really even taking it a next step? Do you go there?
Well, I would say this. I think that aren't our academic institutions supposed to be nonprofit institutions and entities? So
right.
I think with there needs to be something done in the landscape of some type of rule system with the colleges and universities. I think the conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten are really kind of driving the narrative, if you will, because they are the most watched and the most powerful, and they have the biggest TV deals right now. Right. So somebody needs to lead the way to say, hey, we need a framework of, whatever money is going to be spent. I mean, really, this came about because players like myself couldn't ever make. I mean, we couldn't even work when I was in school under scholarship.
You had millions of dollars left on the table because you couldn't take a dime.
Take a dime, forget taking a dime. I couldn't work a job while I was on scholarship. So, there's a lot of things that have changed. And I think that until somebody, I would say, becomes an adult in the room and says, okay, we need some kind of rules. We need something. We need speed limits, whatever it is, not to cap what a player can make. But we need some kind of rules that everybody's playing by. And the NC2A has kind of been capped at, they've been kneecapped. They've lost at every turn in the judicial system. So
here was President Trump moments ago on that point, and then we'll pick it up.
Federal legislation must allow college athletic programs to set common sense rules, simple common sense rules without endless litigation, and establish a fair name, image, and likeness standard that eliminates the patchwork of conflicting state laws.
I hear you on adult in the room, and the president talks about federal legislation. There's a lot of folks in this town and really around the country who would say if you want an adult in the room, the last people you want to call on is Congress, right? And that begs the question of, should Congress get involved with this? It's at the end of the day, it's football, right? And if they do, why?
Listen, Congress has a lot more important things to deal with, especially currently in what's going on in the world. So do they need to? Somebody needs to. The NC2A is there as a governing body. I think the NC2A, it's funny because really, who is the NC2A? The NC2A are the member institutions. So we've identified the enemy, and the enemy is us. That's the way I look at it. But the school presidents and the universities don't want to leave any money on the table for themselves. So they're just kind of leaving it out there. And you have, players in today's environment. There's a lot of major universities that compete for national championships where the players don't even have to go to class physically. They can Zoom class. I don't know that's not a college experience, at least, not anything like I had. We're forgetting about, are there academic standards that you have to pass a certain amount of classes like everybody used to have in years past before the NIL? I think all of those things, just what's a university there for? To educate. Not every one of these kids is going to be an NFL star and a multi-gazillionaire. So I think, you go out, you play. If you're able to make some compensation while you're in your school, great. If you turn in an NFL star, great. But, it just seems like, nobody wants to decide here, this is the floor of what needs to be done. So we're all playing by the same level playing field.
Then that's why the president convened it today. We'll see what happens. Here's how you know our team is good, Gino. They were showing pictures of when you were playing way back when, and then a lot of the footage.
They saw you in the background?
Well, no, a lot of the footage also was of Michigan, which is my team. You might say go Canes, I say go Blue. Gino Torretta, former Heisman winner, as the conversation taking place at the White House today. Gino, thanks so much. We'll catch you again.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, so the commander-in-chief juggling, as we just talked about there, a war, an unstable job market as well, and the prospect of another U.S. intervention in the Western Hemisphere. Just some of what's on his plate when we return.
I'd give it a 12 to a 15. Their army is gone. They're just about, look, their Navy is gone. Their communications are gone. Their leaders are gone.
The commander-in-chief at the top of the hour touting the successes of Operation Epic Fury as we keep our eyes across the Middle East tonight. Joining us now, full panel, Chris Stirewalt, host of The Hill Sunday. Oh, that's Megan Hayes, director of message planning at the Biden White House. Who are we going to next? Reveal Annalise Keller, partner at 7 Letter. And he, of course, is Chris Stirewalt, host of The Hill Sunday, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. I got it backwards. You're all here. That's all that matters. Happy Friday. Hello to you both. Chris, hello. So we heard from the president saying the Air Force is gone, the Navy is gone, the comms are gone, the strikes are down 90%. What's before him tonight as it wraps up week one as the commander-in-chief?
So Iran is, as a conventional military power, devastated, right? Their ability to project force in the region, devastated. What we don't know is what's their capacity to control and oppress their own people. How do their people feel about the regime? And what is their capacity to use unconventional force, terrorist attacks and other things to inflict harm? So are we at the beginning of the end? Are we at the end of the beginning? It is impossible to say because we've gone into a new and different space. Whenever you're arming the Kurds and you're popping the top on regional shifts and all of this stuff, so it's a very much wait and see space.
Do you give him credit, like, for the successes and the military operation and sort of where things are tonight in the Middle East?
You know, I don't think that the president had a plan going into this. There's many Americans that are stranded abroad, and they didn't have a plan to get those folks home. Gas is going to be over $4 a gallon. I think it went up to $90 a barrel, which is a huge increase. That's a huge problem for people here in the United States. I don't think this was an imminent threat. I don't think it was something we needed to do right now. So, you know, and we lost 6 American lives so far, and he acts like it's no big deal. And I think that's a problem. And I think the American people are going to have a problem. And I think he's putting Congress during the midterms in a really precarious spot because the economy is not doing what he says it's going to do, and this is just another war that we don't have an end to or a solution of how we're going to get out of it.
I do think there are people that are concerned with where this is going, and to Chris's point, it is hard for us to appreciate where things stand right now, but I do want to give him credit. I mean, I think, you know, the Iranian regime is an evil regime, and they were in an extremely weakened position. I do think, too, one of the challenges that the Trump administration has had with this is typically when we go to war or we do an act of this level, there is a long-term message arc of this is why we're going to war. This is what we're looking to do. These are our objectives and accomplishments. And I think that's been one of the more difficult things for the American people to understand is just the fact of how quickly this all came together and just the different sort of snapshot of reasonings that have been coming out. I mean, I think we can all, you know, understand the challenges and problems with this evil Iranian regime, but figuring out where we go from here and what our objectives are has been a weakness.
So Megan hit on gas, which is one of the big stories today, Chris. Gas prices up something like 40 cents, 35 cents or so nationally just in the last week. And then we also learned today that job loss hit 92,000 in the past month. There hasn't been any job creation from May until February of this year. On the flip side, though, average hourly earnings are up nearly 4%. Here's what I sort of pick up on. Remember this messaging from the administration leading into all of this? Roll it.
We may have short-term a little pain, and people understand that.
And there's going to be a detox period.
We know that people are in pain. We have to understand that it takes time to get inflation down and more robust growth up.
So they have gotten inflation down, but they kept talking about pains to come, pains to come, pains to come. And when you look at no net job growth over a 10-month period, I guess the question then becomes, how long is short term?
I miss the Christmas trees, Blake. I'm not going to lie to you. Look, telling people that you're going to experience pain, but it's for a greater good. And we talked about this a lot with the tariffs.
Right.
There was an argument you could make. These are worth the price that you're going to have to pay. But they didn't want to do it. Right? The administration didn't want to say, and this is why, because we're going to rebuild manufacturing, we're going to do all this stuff. They would say it for a while, and then they'd say, we can't quite stay in that place. I think Iran is the same thing, and this is why the president could have at his State of the Union address, or could have at any number of points said, we have a duty, this is what the world is going to look like, this is our vision, come with me on this journey. When people are paying $4 at the gas pump, we have polling that says that it's about evenly divided on basically partisan lines for support on the war at the beginning, right? When as the first strikes were taking place, people went to their partisan corners. Over time, if gas prices are up, over time, if there's a negative consequence on the economy, they will turn sharply against it.
How short-term does short-term need to be?
I mean, we have about 9 months until the midterms, but we did have pretty consequential primaries this week in Texas, Arkansas, and North Carolina. So, you know, he has a little bit of time, but not a lot, because we're seeing there's a lot of energy in the Democratic, electorate right now. We saw there were more people in Texas and the Democratic Party that turned out. So, you know, we have a little bit of runway, but that is shrinking for Republicans.
Speaking of runway, that's the president on the runway at Andrews at 30 seconds left. How long is his runway here on?
I think he is reaching a point that's very short. When you start talking people going into their summer breaks and not being able to afford gas, they're not going to want to be spending $1 billion a day fighting in Iran when they can't afford gas and groceries and health care.
Annalise, Megan, Chris. Chris, by the way, I should note, thank you all. Appreciate it. Chris has the best Sunday show in the biz, The Hill Sunday. I hope you watch it here on News Nation, 10 a.m. Eastern. Chris will be there in the morning. We leave with a live picture here of the president, back of the beast. Might he talk to the media? I don't know. We'll see here in about 10 seconds. Elizabeth Vargas will let you know.